What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So after watching the Bruins versus the Senators game last night, I was absolutely shocked when I discovered the stat that Brady Tkachuk is now pointless in his last 9 games. So I thought it would make for an interesting video to see some of the guys that have really been struggling the last month or so, 2+ months, on kind of cold stretches. And these teams badly need these guys to step up to either make the playoffs, win their division, or get home ice in the first round, and then come playoff time to reach their season goals. So we're going to go through 8 guys. You obviously know I'm going to go really dive into Brady Tkachuk, so I got 7 more up my sleeve, and yeah, we're going to dive into it. Up first, Brady Tkachuk, 9 points, no points at all, 33 penalty minutes. And although I got to add some context, the Senators are 5-3-1 in that stretch. They're still chugging along pretty decently, but 4 of those games, they've been shut out. In 2 of those games, it was 1-0 against the Washington Capitals, and Boston Bruins was 1-0. Then they scored an empty netter. So Brady Tkachuk has been ice cold, and when looking at him on the season now, he's only on pace for 65 points. He went from 83 to 75 to now on pace for 64 points, 9-point deduction every single season. He is not only the vocal leader in that room, he's the second best player on that team. You cannot, basically once the Senators safely got into a wild card spot, he's been a ghost. You cannot have that with Brady Tkachuk. When looking at him, it's not good. And especially now with the injuries that they have, they need him to step up in a big way, especially considering their schedule is not easy leading up to 4 nations. They got Toronto, Utah, Washington, Minnesota, Nashville, Tampa Bay, and then Florida. We're going to find out a lot about this Ottawa Senators team as they deal with injuries. Brady Tkachuk needs to step up in a big way, considering he has been ice cold since early January. Next up, Ilya Sorokin. After his first 16 games of the season, you thought that he was maybe back. He had a 9-16. He was looking like 2022, 2023 Ilya Sorokin. And although the Islanders were blowing some third period leads and racking up loser points, you thought if Sorokin keeps on playing like this, we could easily be a playoff team as long as we get some of our guys back like Duclair, Barzal, and Pelech. But since then, he is 8-8 with an .888 save percentage. It has not been good. Marcus Hogberg has straight up not stolen his job, but he's been much better of late in his 5 games with the Islanders this season. He got a .952, and if this continues, I'd honestly rock with Marcus Hogberg. When looking at the Islanders, similarly to the Ottawa Senators, it is truly nut up time for the Islanders. If they don't play good in their next couple games, they rightfully so should be selling. Their schedule's even harder. They go Philadelphia, Carolina, Colorado, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Florida, Vegas, Winnipeg, Minnesota. So if Sorokin doesn't step the hell up for this team now, before 4 nations, he might as well pack the bags of Brock Nelson, of Kyle Palmieri, because he is a decent reason why this team has so massively missed expectations at this point. They're going to have to go on a tear. We're going to have to see Sorokin play some of his best hockey, or else this Islanders team is going to be out of the playoff discussion, out of the playoff picture come 4 nations time, and his contract is rightfully so going to get torn apart by other fan bases and by Islander fans, considering he's making $8.25 million and has not been remotely close to that the last year and a half for the most part. Sam Bennett, this guy came out of the gates firing in a contract year. He had 13 goals, 13 assists, 26 points in his first 27 games. You're like, he's going to play himself out of Florida. He's been that good. He's going to get some kind of monster deal. But when looking at him in his last 20 games, he has 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points. Florida has not looked that good in those last 20 games, and he's still playing 17 minutes a night. It's not like there's been some kind of ice time change with him, and he has been obviously so crucial to Florida's playoff success when looking at the fact that he has 29 points in 39 playoff games in the last 2 years for the Florida Panthers. So he has been their second-line center. Yes, they do have Anton Lundell, but come playoff time, down the stretch, if Florida wants to win the Atlantic Division, he needs to step up in a big way, and that has just not been the case. He's obviously a very physical, and he's good defensively, so it's not all about the points with him, but they definitely need more points production than 3 points in 20 games. Of late, Thatcher Demko. Now, this might just be injury-related, why he's playing so bad. I made a full TikTok video if you want to go see it, considering his injury is something that can't be corrected by surgery. But if the Canucks want to make the playoffs, he does need to step up, definitely to the degree that he's playing right now. I'm not expecting 2023, 2024 Vezina runner-up Thatcher Demko, but he has an .867 right now in his 3-5-3. In his last 4 games, it's even worse. He has an .833. So, yeah, Kevin Lankinen has done a good job job just being consistent for this Canucks team. But Demko, you got to give me at least a 900, at least a 905, or else the Vancouver Canucks, who sit outside of a playoff spot right now, and the Calgary Flames have a game in hand on them. No bueno for Thatcher Demko, and the Canucks goaltending future is quite concerning at this point. Next up, this is a little bit tough because he's not as much as a major piece, but Logan Stankoven has been struggling of late. To start the season, first 15 games, we thought him and Michkov, 1A, 1B for the Calder, considering Celebrini was out with injury. Dustin Wolf, we didn't expect the Calgary Flames to be as good as they were, and for him to consistently put this up, and Lane Hudson wasn't on the top power play. Yeah, 14 points in 15 games, just 8 in his last 27 games. And again, I'm not going to act like he's going to be the sole reason why Dallas would potentially lose in the first or second round, but with Tyler Seguin out now potentially for the first and second round, he's going to be relied on to play a pretty serious role. I know that might be unfair expectations for a 21, 22-year-old, but based on what we saw at the end of last year, how good he was in the playoffs, and to start this year, he definitely needs to step up in a big way for this Dallas team and give them solid 50, 55 kind of point pace down the stretch and into the playoffs if they want to go on some type of run and win the Central Division. Morgan Rielly, the all offense, no defense defenseman. He ain't providing much offense of late. He has 22 points in 49 games on the season. In his last 31 games, he has just 1 goal, 8 assists, 9 points, as well as being a minus 15. Again, plus minus, not that good of a stat, but when looking at that in 31 games to be a minus 15 on a playoff team, that is pretty shit for Morgan Rielly. And it's not even like his defensive numbers have massively improved under Berube. If he had 22 points in 49 games, but his even strength defensive numbers went from the bottom 5 percentile to like the bottom 30th, and he took a solid step, I could live with that lack of production, but that has not been the case. They definitely need him to step up because as of right now, he is the number 1 on the Toronto Maple Leafs. You look at like every single team, every single cup team, they have a legit number 1, and usually a number 2 that would be a legit number 1 on like half the teams in the NHL. So yeah, it's definitely concerning for the Toronto Maple Leafs if they have any aspirations to go deep in the playoffs. Morgan Rielly probably is the one guy that you look at and be like, you got to step the hell up. You have not been nearly good enough. Guys like Tanev and OEL have made up for his deficiencies this season. But yeah, Morgan Rielly, the buck stops with you, and you need to step the hell up. Next up, Kevin Fiala. When looking at him, another very solid start to the season for him. 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points in 13 games. You thought another season on that second line, kind of carrying the Kings' second line, being around 75 to 80 points. In his last 31 games, he has 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points. That is very, very concerning. His underlying numbers are still strong. But again, for an LA team that doesn't really have that, I like their first line a lot. I like Kopitar and Kempe, but not exactly superstar talents. They need Fiala to be that third star on that second line, drive that second line with whoever he's with, Byfield, Deneau, Turcotte, guys like that. That has not been the case this season for Kevin Fiala. It's pretty concerning for an LA Kings team that has decent expectations because the rest of the team is performing pretty decent. If Kevin Fiala gets back on track down the stretch, they could be a serious threat come playoff time, but as of right now, that has not occurred. So step the hell up, Kevin Fiala. And then lastly, Rasmus Andersson. At this point, the Flames are not keeping their first round pick. They're going to finish outside of the bottom 10 teams in the entire NHL pretty safely. So now the mindset is kind of flipped. Might as well make the playoffs at this point. And Rasmus Andersson is holding them back. Well, they're in a playoff spot right now, but Rasmus Andersson is not the reason why. If anything, they would be in more of a playoff spot if Rasmus Andersson was playing better of late. To start the season when they went 5-0-1, Rasmus Andersson was a massive reason why because of that, with 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. However, after that hot start since November 3rd, he just has 7 points in 35 games. And again, referencing plus minus, although I don't love to do it, he is a minus 14. Meanwhile, a guy like Mackenzie Weegar is a plus 8 in that stretch. Kevin Ball during that stretch has 10 points, and Danil Miramonov has a higher points per game than Rasmus Andersson, who's playing 24 minutes a night. He has just been brutal for the Calgary Flames since that start, and he needs to step up because Calgary doesn't have that much defenseman depth. Again, you're relying on guys like Miramonov and Kevin Ball to be kind of your 3, 4, 5. So he needs to step the hell up if Calgary wants to end up making the playoffs. And honestly, he's hurting his trade value. If they want to trade him this summer, say they make the playoffs and they're like, okay, we actually need to rebuild, retool, he is definitely hurting his trade value as of right now. But yeah, those are the 8 guys that I think really need to step it up because they've been slumping the last month, 2 months, 3 months. Let's go through it again. Brady Tkachuk, 9-game points streak. Unacceptable for a captain that gets paid $8.2 million. Sorokin, sub 890 in his last 15 games. Sam Bennett, 3 points in 20 games. Demko, just brutal ever since he got back. Stankoven, 8 points in 27 games. Rielly, just offensive defenseman that's not producing offensively. Kevin Fiala, step it up on that second line. And then Andersson, you've been pretty ass since November. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Who are some other guys that you would throw up on this list? There's probably many people that I am omitting, but those are the guys that are viewed as elite or high level guys that have just not been on that level. And I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.